as we follow our wellness strategy to support the reproductive system, we're going to be flooding the reproductive system with nutrients. That's part of our wellness strategy. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Minke. This is Minke Wellness. And the nutrients for the reproductive system are varied, but there's some basic core nutrients that I think are really important, and one of them is trace minerals, okay? And for our trace mineral support, we're going to use the mineral essence from Young Living. It has a few extra little tricks in there besides just the trace minerals, but let me talk about trace minerals just for a second. During my PhD, would work in the research lab, and we would grow fungus. We were actually doing research on a filamentous fungus. And in order to grow the fungus, we'd have to make petri dishes and all that. Well, the petri dishes had to have the nutrients necessary for the fungus to grow. Well, if the technician or one of us forgot to add this tiny little bit, this 1 microliter of trace minerals to this huge bottle of the media of the stuff that was going to go into the growth medium, the stuff that was going to go in the petri dish. If we forgot to add the trace minerals, nothing grew. Even a fungus cannot grow without the trace minerals. Okay, and so this is critical for all life at a basic cellular level. We have to have these trace minerals. And a lot of times these trace minerals are not in, these are, we think of minerals and we think of our calcium, magnesium, basically calcium, magnesium, sodium, chloride, those kinds of things. And we get those, and we could take our calcium, potassium supplement and those kinds of things. But we're talking about trace minerals that really you maybe never even heard of and don't ever make it to the list. And they're needed in such trace amounts for, sometimes we're not even sure what they're needed for. Well, the fertility system has so many specialized functions that it does to make the sperm, make the egg, and to keep all that balanced, that trace minerals are very, very important for a healthy reproductive system. So we've got to have those trace minerals. And now, like I said, there's going to be some tricks up our sleeve with regard to this. And this one has royal jelly added to it. Now, the fun thing about royal jelly, of course, we also have our essential oils, our citrus, lemon oil, cinnamon oil, and peppermint oil. And then in an attempt to make it taste better and also add the power of the essential oils, it has failed in its attempt to make it taste better, but we've got the power of the essential oils added. But let me come back to the royal jelly. Royal jelly is the honey, the special honey that they give to the queen bee. So the bees make honey, right? And the honey is there to feed the hive, and especially the young ones. Well, the royal jelly is the special jelly to feed the queen, and she, how fertile she is, right? She's cranking out, all kinds of reproductive activity here. She's the only one that reproduces. She makes the entire hive. All the worker bees come out of the queen bee, so she's there, cranking out the eggs, and the royal jelly is what's keeping her going. Okay, so not a bad thing to add to something that you want to support your fertility is to have included in that the royal jelly. So this supplement. It's some trace minerals. It does have pretty high magnesium, which is a great part to calm down. So this might help us calm down about this if we're a little anxious about talking about the reproductive system. We can keep ourselves calm with our magnesium in here. Now, this is taking 5 half droppers or 5 squirts a day, and I've had trouble getting this down, and so we could put it in capsules. It's a little tedious to do that, but I've decided that there's a couple different little tricks that people have done, and one of them is to put it in a tiny little bit of Ninja Red with some orange oil added, and even just 5 drops of orange oil, maybe dilute a little bit with some water, and then chase it down and just down it. It tends to ruin anything that I put it in terms of the taste, so I just kind of work with it. And again, if you absolutely cannot get it down because it's just that salty, I don't know how else to describe it, but a very salty taste, then we put it in a capsule and take it. So my wife Amy, that's what she's going to do. So it's I'll just take it as we go along here. But this is, if you can't quite get the 5 mils in there, which is a teaspoon basically, if you wanted to pour it out, that's another thing to do. It's just, we're talking about a teaspoon a day of this. And if you wanted to go for less of that and stretch it out, then that would be perfectly fine. Do a half teaspoon or even a quarter teaspoon, which would end up being 1.5 squirts or so. When I say squirts, it's a dropper. It's a dropper bottle. You got this, and see, there's some of that royal jelly that's glummed up on the side. Now, this is perishable because of the royal jelly and other stuff in here, so we do keep it in the fridge. And I highly recommend shaking up really good so you get the full benefit getting that royal jelly mixed up. Okay, now I wanted to do something also as part of our whole video series here for the reproductive system. And I know if you've been following me in the first couple months, I did a lot of breathing and we kind of got away from it. So I wanted to come back to the breathing, because one of the things about wellness is to bring our consciousness. And it really helps us to know what we need more of. What supplement do we need more of? What essential oil do we need to use? What even attitude adjustment or even to give ourselves an attitude adjustment is to use our intentional breathing, our conscious breathing. I call the system that I've kind of played with over the years therapeutic breath. Okay, to use our breath therapeutically. And so I'm going to do that with you here today. If you'd like to join me for a few minutes on breathing, and we're going to focus on the reproductive system. So, we had our diagram of all the parts, and most people know the way the reproductive system is, but basically, most people think the private parts, the genitals, are the entire reproductive system, and we kind of forget about the rest of it, right? So men, you've got a prostate that is on the inside, women, everything's on the inside, but you got the ovaries that go across to the back on either side. And then there's how it stacks up. What you don't get in a diagram that you typically see, on the front here, you don't get to turn to the side and see what's going on. And so it's the bladder out front, then the uterus, then the rectum, right, and then the tailbone. Okay, and so what can happen a lot in our sitting things, we'll talk more about this as we get to structure, is that the rectum and the vagina for women, or the rectum and the prostate for men, can get adhered, right? So these things are stuck together. Now, we'll talk more about the consequences of that from a standpoint of pleasure for sex and all kinds of topics like that. But what I'm saying is, as we start to get more in tune with the physical parts of our body, the reproductive system, and then use our breathing to enhance that. So let's go kind of check in. We do a listening breath. We breathe in, and with our breath, we breathe in, fill our lungs, follow the blood, and we're going to follow the blood down to the reproductive system. For men, we're going to start out, just right out with the testes, penis. For women, start with the outside labia and then move in. Since I'm not a woman and I don't have those parts, you're going to have to work with your imagination system to connect with those. So I'm going to breathe in down to the groin area and just make a connection, right? And so it's one of these things about bringing consciousness to our private areas is, if we have had abuse, and there's many, many people who have, if we've had some abuse at all in this area, then it can be really challenging to make these connections. But this is important for a health of our organ, is for us to bring our consciousness to this and realize that it doesn't matter who touched us in the wrong way. It doesn't matter what societal problems or issues that have been imposed upon us. That doesn't make us dirty. So in other words, I go back to, Jesus was spat on and kicked and beaten, and he was innocent. So he remained innocent the whole time. He wasn't made dirty because of how people treated him. And so this is going to be very, very true theme, especially as we go into making connections to the reproductive system. We're not dirty because someone else did something to us, okay? So we want to try to let go of that and really come back to being whole and healing with this. And so what does this have to do with mineral essence? Well, when we start talking about making connections to this, and then we use our breath, we can send this mineral healing, mineral work, the vitality of all of our supplements, anything that we're taking in and using, we can send that down deliberately and start to work with having a more healthy, balanced reproductive system. So if we don't have a connection to it, we can't make that. So we're just starting out here, our first day, of making a connection through breath. And I hope you join me with this, because it can be very powerful as a way to take another step upward in your wellness journey. And this area of reproduction is really a challenging one. Now, if you've had all the parts removed, like a woman, then we'll just do the best we can and work with that. Okay, so in other words, there's going to be breathing into a void, but you have that area still physically in your body where there's scar tissue and stuff like that, so breathing and healing for that. So again, we're just making a connection. Breathe down in, and sometimes you can't make a connection. It's so challenging, it's so difficult, it's so dark. So we're just going to bring light to it, right? So breathe in and bring light down to the reproductive system. And we're not going to get all that specific necessarily, just go breathe down and bring your consciousness to the groin area. Now go inside a little bit. For men, this is the progression would be more out to in. You know, women, you could just do the inside if you want to go straight to that. So I'm going to come in, go straight down the middle of my body, which would just imagine the breath with the down into the lungs, but I'm just going to keep right on going down into the middle of the body. For men, you can touch with the prostate. Women, you got the whole uterus and ovaries, uterus in the middle. And again, we just make a connection. Now we're going to breathe that light down into that. Fill the whole area with light and warmth and love. Okay. And chase out all the shadows. They got no business being here. And now we're going to feel the earth energy, the ground up rock, right? This is minerals. Trace minerals are kind of like basically ground up rock. This come out of the glacial milk that comes down. This is one of the big sources of things, comes out of the Great Salt Lake in Utah. But this mineral essence, so we're going to make that connection to the minerals, that if you want to think of a low note like the cello or the bass in the, you know, the big low notes that are in there for an orchestra, for a pretty good, that's the way I connect to that. So I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to ask the bass note of my orchestra, of my body, to come in. And I'm asking for the minerals to talk to me. And it's not a very strong signal, so I really need this trace minerals. So I'm going to invite the minerals to talk to me. And then, of course, as I take this, I haven't taken it right this moment, but as I take this, I'm going to breathe in, and I'm going to invite that to come in and soak into the reproductive system and send it where I need it to go. And then I'm going to finish it off with the love, God's love and light, starting at the reproductive system, and then I'll just go ahead and go out from there and fill my body with light. Okay, so a little breathing exercise. We're going to do more of this to get conscious, bring our consciousness to this. Anytime we have forgotten something, or we're ashamed of something, or someone has, we've done this kind of negative attitude about our reproductive system, about our reproductive health, in any kind of shameful way, it's school and all the rest of this stuff is so hard to get through without some kind of attack. That's why I think everyone needs oils, and we'll get into the oils as release. Remember, we have our release oil, and if you need that little extra boost even now, you can start. So be brave. We're going to start to move into becoming more conscious and free of the negative stuff that have been imposed on us about the reproductive system. We're going to liberate that, get rid of that, and we're going to bring light and love and energy to our reproductive system. We're going to support it with supplements the whole month. So hang in there with me on this journey of wholeness and health and healing from the inside out, for one day at a time, and we'll focus this month on the reproductive system. Happy wellness.